Hey everybody, this is Virus, and today I'm going to be doing something that I really have not done on this channel, but is something that I've looked forward to doing for quite some time. I'd like to make a tier list of the Final Fantasy series. Um, there's a couple nuances in here. I've not beaten Final Fantasy 2 or 5, and I've not played 11, so I'm not going to include those in this list, and I'm also not going to include the ones on the bottom here as well as the after years because I just don't think that they're main series games. I'd like to focus on the main series here. And there's also something I'd like to say. I'm going to try and keep this video relatively short because I know people just want to get to the point. I have recorded a longer version where I go a little more in depth about each game. So if you're interested, I will definitely upload that for you guys. Okay, let's start. Final Fantasy 1. I'm going to give that a C. And I just noticed that my rankings are a little different. I had an F tier on my other one, but that's fine. Um, Final Fantasy 1, kind of the game that started it all. Really really made popular the RPG genre. There really wasn't a lot of games like it during this time, so that's why I'm not going to give this game the lowest rank because I just think it deserves a little more respect. The battle system's kinda limited, but that's what you would expect from a game that old. And they're, the characters didn't even really have names yet, so that's why I really don't feel comfortable rating this game higher. Final Fantasy 2 have, like I said, have not beaten yet. Final Fantasy 3, that is going to be a D rank. I played the DS version and I did not like it. I didn't like the graphics and I did not like the music in the game. That might have changed if I played the Famicom. I think it was Famicom, or was it Super Famicom? Um, anyway, I would have probably liked the music a little better if I heard it originally on those systems. But anyway, the game does have an improved job system over one. However, I got stuck in the game because I didn't level up my classes like I should have. So it just frustrated me, and because of that, I just kind of never want to return to the game. So that's kind of basically all I have to say about that. Final Fantasy IV, A rank for sure. Uh, it's a really underrated game in my opinion. It's one of the darkest, definitely one of the most darkest themes out of the Final Fantasy series. A lot of characters die, so don't get too attached to people. Is what I'm saying. Um, the job system is really good. It's still kind of medium as far as battle, I guess, but the music in the game is really good, and it for me definitely shows that they took story into account when they were making the game. They kind of needed to at that point for the Super Nintendo because games were starting to focus more on story instead of points or just gameplay, and I think they nailed it. It's one of the best in the series in my opinion. Final Fantasy VI, A tier. I mean that one's also easy. Um, some people might be surprised it's not S tier, but I don't think it's as good of a game story wise as 4, but battle system wise, it's definitely better than 4. Character wise, I think it's about the same. The characters are more fledged out in 6, so I guess it could probably get the edge there as well. But I just didn't find the story quite as interesting. The main bad dude, Kefka, though, is one of the most iconic bad guys in any RPG, so that's why it's so high. 7. 7 for me has to go. There we go. Has to go above 1, but it has to stay in the C tier. I didn't play the game when it first came out, so I'm not nostalgic for the game in any kind of way. I just actually beat it for the first time, I think 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. And although the game has an interesting story, I don't think the characters in the game give the story enough credit. I guess that's my nice way of saying I don't really care for the characters. I don't like Cloud, although he gets better as the story goes by. Barrett's okay. He's definitely one of the characters that actually shows a personality in the game. The battle system is classic Final Fantasy, which I like. I like the magic system in the game. I like how the attack animations and everything looked. It was it was the first 3D Final Fantasy game, so I have to give it a little bit of a break there, but overall, I think it's just an average game. Final Fantasy VIII is really hard for me to rank because, yeah, it's hard for me to rank because the music in the game is easily top 3 in the series. It was something that I wasn't expecting when I first played the game. The thing that really bothers me about the game, though, is the junction system. I like to play Final Fantasy games because I like to use magic. And in Final Fantasy VIII, the junction system kind of makes you not use magic. If you want to max out your damage, you're gonna junction your magic into whatever weapon or whatever. And that frustrated me because, you know what? You know what? I'll change it. I'll change it to right here. It frustrated me because I really liked the graphics in the game. They were improved from 7. And I loved the music. The music is so good. The garden music, I could fall asleep to that every day. Um, but it's the magic system. Like, I don't even know what any of the spells look like. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's not going to get any higher than that for me. Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy IX is one of my favorite games of all time. The graphics are yet again improved from Final Fantasy, the previous Final Fantasy. You could tell that they learned how to maximize the graphics on the PS1 at this point in time. The music in the game was really good. The characters in the game showed a lot of personality. I like pretty much every character that you meet, and there's a lot of them. Um, I would go as far to say as Final Fantasy IX is pretty much the equivalent of Final Fantasy VI, but done better. And I say that because I like how the story progresses. I like seeing how characters change throughout time. And overall, I just think it's a really good game. The only gripe that a lot of people seem to have about the game is that it takes a really long time to load into battle. That doesn't really bother me. I play games to have fun. I'm not playing a game, to get it over, So that never bothered me. Definitely think it's one of the best in the series. Final Fantasy X is a B rank. It was the first game on the PS2, first Final Fantasy game on the PS2, and it was the first Final Fantasy game with voice acting. And the voice acting seems to be a lot of people's main gripe with the game. For me, I think that's kind of a silly way to judge the game because a lot of JRPGs today still don't have great voice acting, and I actually don't think it's too bad in X. There are certain parts that I that I can think of, but it's not that bad as far as that goes. The reason it gets a B tier is because you can't explore until really late in the game, and that's just not what Final Fantasy is about. From the very first game, you were able to explore and find out areas that you're probably not supposed to be in yet, and learn the hard way. And in Final Fantasy X, you just really couldn't do that. Um, I'm trying to think of certain times, and just one doesn't come to my mind where I thought, hey, I shouldn't be here. Let's go somewhere else. Just because it was real linear. That being said, I liked most of the characters. I love the music, and the graphics, even today, during the cutscenes, really hold up. I think they did a really, really good job with the game. Final Fantasy XII. I recently beat Final Fantasy XII. It was a game that I was really hesitant about playing. Final Fantasy XII is infamous for being one of the longer games in the series, if not the longest game in the series, and having a confusing story. I actually like the story in the game. It's not great. Uh, the main the main selling point to this game is the battle system. It has a really unique battle system that feels new but feels old. Excuse me. It didn't take so many liberties where it didn't feel like a Final Fantasy game anymore, and it was honestly a pleasure to play the game. I loved I loved the ending. I loved the experience as a whole. I think it's a game if somebody has a PS4 or even a PC that can run the game, um, they should definitely pick it up. Don't be intimidated like I was. It's worth it. Final Fantasy 13 is a game that most people say is one of their least favorites. I disagree. It does have the same flaw as Final Fantasy X, where it's very, very linear for a very long time. But the battle system is surprisingly complex. It takes a it takes a really long time to get used to it and to actually be good at it. Uh, I died more in Final Fantasy 13 than I have in any other Final Fantasy game except for a different one that's coming up. It's hard. The game's hard, but it's not unbearably hard. You might fail a boss a time or two, but that's fun. That's how we learn. Um, I think RPG games should be like that. The characters in the game, kind of take them or leave them. Lightning's okay. Snow is horrible, in my opinion. I do not like snow. Hope was terrible in the beginning and got better towards the end. And there's other characters, but graphically the game looks amazing. Definitely a selling point to that game is the graphics. Even today in 2020, the cutscenes look magnificent. They took a lot of time and it shows with this game. Moving on to the next one, Final Fantasy XIV. I by far spent the most time in this game than any other Final Fantasy game combined. I'm probably around 2,000 hours now, and I think it deserves an S tier. I've played through the base game, Heaven's Ward, and Stormblood. I've not beaten Shadowbringers yet because my internet hasn't been great. It's better now though, so I'm actually looking forward to completing that soon. The game just has something for everybody. You can do so much in the game, and it really bothers me that people won't play this game because of a $15 subscription fee. You know, if you have the means, most people are going to go out and buy a new game maybe once every 2 or 3 months. I mean, I think that's reasonable to get, 4 new games in a year. And that's pretty much what you're getting here with a subscription fee. And it's something that you're always work in progress. Something not like, for example, I'm working on my fourth animal weapon. It's just really fun to play. It's a really, really good looking game. The voice acting in the game is surprisingly really good. The story in the game is the main selling point for me. Even though it's an MMO, The story in the base game and the two expansions I've beaten were really, really good. I would at least recommend people try out the beginner trial thing that they have. Yeah, that's. I'm not going to talk too much about that, sorry. And then finally, Final Fantasy 15. 15, I think, deserves to be somewhere up here. Um, I'm fairly happy with where it's at. Yeah, the game looks fantastic. It had a lot of performance issues at first. They've patched it and it's a lot better now than it used to be, but it's still, the frame rate kind of bugs me. I have it on my computer now, so that's made it a lot better. But the game's story is average. The characters are probably slightly above average, in my opinion, compared to the other Final Fantasy games. But like Final Fantasy 12, it has a really unique battle system. Um, it seems like it's an action game, but I really, really encourage people to actually learn the battle system because it's not. It's surprisingly really similar to a turn-based strategy game or turn-based RPG like Final Fantasy 9 or one of the other ones. And you'll learn that the hard way towards the end of the game if you just go rushing in. Um, that kind of concludes my tier list here. Sorry that still went on a little bit longer, but it's a lot better than the first take. Again, if somebody wants me to upload the longer version so they can kind of hear more in detail what I think about each game, I definitely will do that. And I really appreciate every single one of you who has taken the time to watch this nonsense. Right now we live in uncertain times, so taking time out of your day to watch this really means a lot. I hope everybody can stay safe. This is Virus. I'll see you later.